Good morning, Newport. Welcome to our inaugural show. On today's show, we have some very important information for you that affects all Newport locals. Brace yourselves for this one, folks. It's a doozy. Our city council, the people elected to make important decisions about Newport, are making decisions for their own personal gain without respect for what the community wants and needs. That's why we launched this show. 6 of the 7 city council members all had campaigns managed by the same man, Dave Ellis, known for dirty political tactics. He's not a man who likes being publicly known. He prefers to work in the shadows, like a marionette puppeteer pulling the strings. It's dangerous to even talk about him. He's like the evil wizard Voldemort from the hit young adult novel Harry Potter. People are afraid to say his name. But how do you defeat Voldemort? You say his name loud and clear so that everyone can know what he's really up to. Are you ready? Dave Ellis. If I wind up face down in the harbor, you all know why. No, that's not really his style, hopefully. He's more likely to slander my reputation through a mailer campaign than to actually have me offed. Now, Dave Ellis has a bit of a history flexing his power in Orange County. He once tried to arrange the private sale of the OC Fairgrounds to an organization run by him and his buddies. He nearly succeeded, but was thwarted by the local community who caught on to his actions just in time. As a former carny myself, Tasty Chips 2010 to 2011, I took particular offense to this. What you all must understand now is that the majority vote of the council from 4 of the members who have dubbed themselves Team Newport may have been compromised. They are making moves against the wishes of the Newport Beach citizens for their own political gains. You see, that's how our city government works. They can and will vote about city issues to help out the special interests of the folks who got them elected, unless the citizens of Newport Beach, like you and I, act out in a legal manner to stop them. There have been hundreds of instances in our city like this since its foundation in 1906, and there are remarkable city groups who have been keeping things in line for decades. One of them is Spawn, still protecting our Newport, the group that saved the Back Bay from being developed in the 1970s and most recently prevented the construction of the Museum House, a skyscraper that was going to replace the OC Museum of Art near Fashion Island. If you want to help keep Newport, join Spawn. It's easy and cheap, and it will keep you notified of how you can help save Newport Beach. Now to bring you back, lots of info on today's show. We have to bring you up to speed. Back to Team Newport, Scott Piotr, Will O'Neill, Kevin Muldoon, and Mayor Duffy Duffield. They're also called the Gang of 4 amongst some residents. It seems that they're working together to usher in major changes to how our city operates. This is just one of the reasons why now, more than ever, that Newport needs locals to start paying attention to what the city council is doing. We'll be having a show on a regular basis posted on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube, all found through our website, goodmorningnewport.org. Please pause this video and subscribe to at least one of the social media channels. I promise you laughs and firsthand information. I go to all the meetings, by the way. They're not the most fun.
Someday soon, I hope to live in a city where the rule of law is respected and ethics and transparency are valued traits. I don't live there now.
I'll be very proud. Raise a loving son, and I know he'll be proud of me.
And I cannot wait for the young women and men here to grow up and replace the 7 of you.
Our city clerk's son was absolutely fantastic in a play called The Wizard of Oz.
And we're asking you, council members, to help ensure the safety of children like us here in Newport Beach and all of Southern California for generations to come.
Why? Why is this even happening?
You showed contempt for the taxpayers when you wasted literally hundreds of thousands of tax dollars.
Okay, maybe it's a little fun, but you get to see the edited version. I have to sit through all of this for hours and hours, me and Riley, our damn director. Let's give it up for Riley. No, we have fun. Here's a little bit more about what went down at a city council meeting last month that you might find interesting. Agenda item 9 at tonight's city council meeting was an ordinance to allow the sale of alcoholic beverages on site where they're being manufactured in the industrial zoned area of Newport Beach, which is over near West Side Costa Mesa near Carden Hall School between 15th and 16th Streets roughly. It was a unanimous 7-0 vote against the ordinance to allow the tasting rooms on the site where the alcoholic beverages are being manufactured. This would be very similar to brew pubs we see down in San Diego, up very popular in Portland, Oregon, literally across the U.S. They wanted to do this here in Newport. The council said no. But frankly, I think that the Newport Beach City Council seemed very out of touch tonight with what the younger, up-and-coming generation of Newport Beach residents wants and needs. Now, this week's City Council meeting was rather dry and vanilla. The city approved the budget for the coming fiscal year, and we're going to cover that in another video. They also argued over whether or not City Council members would be on the Finance Committee. This is important, but more on that later. If you are like I was my previous 26 years in Newport, not paying attention to City Council meetings, then you're going to need some context with what's been happening in the city over the past few months. Let's throw it back to a few agenda items that are very important and will come to play into future meetings. One of the most controversial City Council fiascos in recent history occurred in April, where the Gang of Four allegedly decided behind closed doors to force an early retirement of our city manager, Dave Kiff. Why do that? 3 of the Gang of Four up for re-election this November and want to choose the new city manager while they still can. The city manager has great control over what happens in Newport and is in some ways even more important than the council themselves. It's somewhat like a Supreme Court justice being appointed by a president at the end of their term. Even if some of the Gang of Four are unseated this November, their city manager replacement will remain, and their influence will extend for years to come over our city. Now, here's what we know. The Gang of Four voted for the motion that forces Dave Kiff to retire by August instead of his planned retirement in April 2019. To do so, they're going to be paying around $200,000 of taxpayers' money to give him a bonus for leaving early and to pay his regular salary until his original retirement date. Dave Kiff himself issued a statement about what happened to Councilwoman Diane Dixon, who spoke out for him at a city council meeting.
Please see the timeline seen above me as presented to me by the city manager. Mr. Duffield and Mr. O'Neill said to Dave Kiff, "We want to talk some serious business with you about speeding up your retirement." Mr. Kiff responded, "I was planning to retire after the November election, as the timing might allow for better candidates to apply." Mr. Duffield, "Well, that makes sense." Mr. O'Neill said, "No," shaking his head. Mr. O'Neill, "We want this change during the summertime. We will make sure you are whole. We will have time to celebrate your career. You will be on the books until December 31st, but you would leave in the summer when a replacement is hired." Where is transparency? There was no vote of the full council. We still haven't voted. The actions of the mayor and the mayor pro tem were not those of public officials acting in the public interest. They were the actions of officials trying to pull something over the public, to do something in their own political or personal interest without regard to the good of the city and its residents, to do something that may not stand the light of day. Please tell the people of Newport Beach, where is the transparency in secretly forcing the retirement of the city manager and creating and negotiating the terms of a 50-page contract without city council review and debate? How is that ethical?
There's now a lawsuit against Mayor Duffield and Councilman Will O'Neill for the violation of the Brown Act, which says you have to have an open public meeting if you're speaking with 3 or more city council members about an issue. We're going to keep you updated on how this lawsuit goes. There's a lot more to tell you about what's going on in our once sleepy city by the sea, but this was a lot to digest for episode 1. Let's talk about some statewide and even international issues that are of interest to Newport Beach residents. This November, you're going to be able to vote on splitting California into 3 separate states: Northern California, Southern California, and just California. If this passes, Newport Beach would be in Southern California, while Los Angeles would remain in California. Unfortunately for Newport Beach residents, a border between Orange and Riverside counties will not be included in this ballot measure. Around Newport Beach, we know him as the town drunk, but to the rest of the world, he's our nation's ambassador to North Korea. Former NBA star and longtime Newport resident Dennis Rodman was in Singapore with President Donald Trump last week for the summit with North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un. I know we're all very proud to see Newport represented on the world stage this way. Now let's go to our director, Riley, who's sitting down with Joy Brenner, a city council candidate who hopes to take back our city in November's election.
Thank you, Alex. I'm here with Joy Brenner, who's running for city council this November. Thanks for joining us this morning, Joy.
Thank you for having me.
So tell us, what made you first decide to run for city council?
I never had any intention of running for city council. People started asking me back in the 80s if I would run, and I would say, why would I want to do that? I had no intention of running for city council. And then most recently, it has become evident that the city council was not really listening to the citizens. And it became so important with things like the museum house and the early retirement of Dave Kiff and those types of things that we really needed to get more involved again. I think we had been taking our lives for granted. We are having a good time, we have good lives, we travel, we have grandchildren, we really enjoy life in Newport Beach, and we kind of thought it was taking care of itself, but it became apparent that it was not. So I decided I had to do it.
What was it that became apparent that it wasn't the usual city council?
Well, throughout the years, I've been going to city council meetings for about 40 plus years now, and the people that I've respected are the ones that really make an attempt to find out what the citizens feel about things before they make decisions. It just seemed like nothing we said. We would go speak at city council, we would talk to commissions and boards, and it just didn't seem like what we were saying was rising up through the ranks to the city council level to have them vote in accordance with what the people wanted.
So it sounds like the city council wasn't listening to its citizens.
It didn't appear to be, to most of us.
Now, was there an actual moment when you realized that it could be you that makes the difference?
Yes, when everyone else said no. We asked all kinds of people who just live in Newport, love Newport, want to see it be the best it can be, and we really asked a lot of people. But there was a lot of hesitation because people have seen how dirty it's gotten in Newport Beach. And so when that became apparent, I sat my family down. I've got a daughter on the east side of the bay and a daughter on the west side of the bay, and they each have children in the local schools. I got them all together and I said, if I do this, it's going to be nasty. You're going to see terrible pictures of me. You're going to hear things said that you know I would never say. I said, it's just like bullying for kids. And we have to decide whether it's important enough, whether we're going to go ahead and take on the bullies and do it because we know it's the right thing to do or not. And they all said yes. So once they gave their seal of approval, then I was off and running.
They must have looked up to you a little bit for that.
Well, it was important to me that they see me exemplify that lesson, because I've always said to them, we get the government we deserve, and if we're not getting a good one, then we need to do better.
Let's talk about Dave Ellis. Mm-hmm. Why is it a problem that he's been the campaign manager for 6 of the 7 current city council members?
I don't know Dave Ellis, and I understand he's a likable guy if you sit down and talk with him. I've known city council members from the 80s that used him as their campaign consultant, and it wasn't negative back then. It was just normal campaigning. I think in the 2014 election, we saw some nasty politics, and we saw people being recruited to run for our council seats that hadn't even lived here. Most of them were under 2 years living in Newport Beach that got elected, but they got elected on the coattails of Duffy Duffield. So that was a team that was put together by Dave Ellis and some other people.
That was Team Newport?
Yes. It got a lot nastier then. So I'm not sure. I think the profit motive probably was much more of an incentive for Dave Ellis, because he's very tied to the development community. And so I think that making sure they had control of the city council became a financial decision, and so that seemed to coincide with when things got nastier in the campaign process. We all of a sudden have like a political machine in Newport Beach. It's like Chicago-style politics. When we had the Museum House petition out, and we had the what I called thugs that were out trying to intimidate people and keep them from signing our petition, I asked one of them, I said, is this like a hire a thug business, or what is this? And he said, well, we do this all over the place for all different kinds of issues. And he said, this is the nicest we ever are. And so when he said that to me, I just thought Chicago-style politics, it's come to Newport Beach.
So someone hired thugs to physically go stop people from signing a petition that you guys were trying to use to stop a big development?
Yes, yes.
Do we know who that was?
I don't know. It's never been like that before. We can disagree about everything. We can disagree about federal government, state government, county government even, but what we have to agree on is that we want what's best for Newport Beach. So it really doesn't matter what our opinions are about a lot of those things that are causing people to be in different encampments. What we have to talk about and what we have to be able to talk to each other about is what's going to benefit our city. This is our hometown. How are we going to protect it and make sure that it's the best it can possibly be?
Thanks for joining us here this morning, Joy.
Thank you for having me. I've enjoyed it.
You can find out more about Joy running for City Council at joyfornewport.com. And good luck on this upcoming election.
Thank you, and good luck with your program.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joy. If you want to see the full interview, you can find it on our YouTube and Facebook. Also, you can follow us on Instagram at Good Morning Newport, Twitter at Newport Beach TV, or our website, www.goodmorningnewport.org. Please send any tips, questions, or suggestions to our email address, goodmorningnewport@gmail.com. That's all we have for today's show, and trust me, folks, it's just the tip of the iceberg. Hold on one second. The tip line is ringing. Feel free to call that as well. Hello, Good Morning Newport. Another potential conflict of interest for Mayor Duffy Duffield? Okay, we'll get to that on next week's show. That's all the time we have for today. For my crew, for my director, Riley Hayes, this is Alex Crawford saying from the Back Bay to the Wedge, from Newport Coast to the River Jetties, good morning, Newport.